Hibs the quarterfinal, then Unhibs it all in the shootout to send them to Handon. Ibrox's fortress is breached as Zander Clark is the hero at both ends, and Saints join Saints in an all-Saints semi, and can they just stop with the Super Leagues? It's episode 19 of the False United podcast. With me today we've got Andy, Marcus and Lewis. How are we doing tonight, guys?
I'm alright. How's yourself?
Alright, not bad.
So we'll start this week's podcast at Easter Road, in the Scottish Cup quarterfinals. We're after a 2-2 draw. Hibs advanced on penalties. Marcus, Lewis, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. I want to apologise for my drunkenness on the last one.
Your antics.
My antics. I was very confident. I mean, I was confident. I would have been confident anyway, but yeah, I'm yeah. things happen. So regardless, though, I still expected us to win. I think what my prediction was 2-0. So I wasn't far off. I was maybe 10 minutes probably away from that, but
yeah, I think it was because they scored in 81 and 89, so you could have been 10 minutes off a 2-0 win.
Yeah, it was peak Hibsing it, quote unquote. I guess you could say I don't know what Lewis would say, but I don't think Motherwell were in the game at all until about 80 minutes. Until you made a few tactical changes, brought Tony Watt on, but
Big Tony Watt.
I think Tony Watt really did change
Celtic
the game.
hero.
I think he did change the game when he came on.
I mean, I was reading the BBC Sport analysis, and they seem to think he made quite an impact. Even apparently, just his presence on the pitch, he was shouting at players to get to balls, sort of taking on a late leadership role. He was telling the players chase every ball, like make every tackle, you know. So even if he didn't score, did he score? I think he scored the second, but
he scored the
second.
Yeah, he scored the second.
I
think he definitely did have a big impact.
The first goal came just into the first few minutes of the second half. A good goal from Christian Deutsch. A powerful header, really, wasn't it?
Beautiful header. It's a very Chris Deutsch goal. Lovely cross from McGinn, who's come under a lot of criticism recently. And I don't know. Some angles it looks like maybe the keeper could have done better with it. It wasn't like right in the corner, but I think it was just far enough away from him that, you know, it was a very powerful header, if I'm being fair to the goalie. But yeah, very happy with that. Like I said, just overall very happy with the way we played. Kind of the first half, we maybe deserved another, like very like the Livingston game, maybe deserved to go into halftime a goal or two up. But yeah, it was good to kind of break the deadlock kind of early on into the second half, and we kept going, which was pleasing to see.
They made 2-0 through Jackson Irvine, who basically poked in Kevin Nisbet's shot in the 80th minute. It's good to get his first goal for the club.
His first goal.
This is his first goal for Hibs, yeah. Is that?
I think he's been quite good for Hibs. I thought he might have scored one.
I love the guy. I've been wanting them to get his first goal for weeks, so more than happy for him. And the shot for Nisbet, I think some replays show that the shot would have been going wide anyway. So
that's always good to know.
Yeah, because when I seen it, I was like, oh, he's going to nick that for Nisbet, but nice. No, a good thing he was there aware in the position. I think he was calling for a penalty because he got bundled over by Gallagher or someone like that. But good wee bit of play from Boyle to slip it in for Nisbet, and Motherwell defence was all over the place. I mean, leaving Nisbet and Irvine unmarked. Shouts for offside, but I don't think he looked offside at all.
No, I think there was someone playing him on who was a bit deeper.
Yeah, very clearly on, and good thing he was there, like I said, because I think the shot from Nisbet would have gone wide. So,
but it was 2 goals in 6 minutes for Motherwell. Goals from Lammy and Tony Watt we talked about earlier. And there were two well taken goals, I think, especially the first one.
It's 2 well taken goals, and this is second year in the Scottish Cup that I have watched an absolute drubbing turn into a comeback to watch a shit show on penalties. it's happened. It's. I'm gonna give my take on the game. That the first half, Hibs were all over us, and we were just really lucky not to give away a goal. We were just in that sort of sense where at least the defence is now somewhat organised, and there is like experienced players in there, the likes of obviously Stephen O'Donnell and Declan Gallagher, but I haven't rated Ricky Lamy since he came to Motherwell. He's god awful, and then he goes and scores a goal, and you're like, okay, that is like the biggest contribution you've made to Motherwell the entire season. The thing about Tony Watt is it's like Tony Watt's been injured for a couple of weeks. We have been without Tony Watt for a little while, and we've had to sort of play Devante Cole, Chris Long, and then Jordan Roberts picked up an injury in training.
I think Cole's been fantastic though. He's deputised very well. Chipped in with plenty of goals.
He's really good, but I think he's only really good when Tony Watt's kind of there. Tony Watt's kind of like your main man in the team, and then Cole kind of you need Tony Watt to kind of hold on to the ball, and then you can use the pace of Devante Cole, play it through, and you get a goal through that. Because Tony Watt's actually, for a striker, has got quite good hold-up play as well. But as you've said, it's like once you bring on Tony Watt, an experienced player up front, everything starts to get more organised. You know, even though we were playing like the last 10 minutes of the game, well, like 10 minutes of the main 90, he's probably still the best player in the park at that point for Motherwell, like for the entire game. Now to go back to obviously like that first Hibs goal, I said to you guys I can't even get angry at the first Hibs goal. It was just so well worked, and the header, like the power that was on the header for Christian Deutsch was like, I knew Liam Kelly was not going to even save that. Even if he got a palm to that was still going in. It was fantastic. Second goal for Hibs, I did feel a little bit let down by. I thought if we just try to bundle players over now, you're going to end up giving away a penalty if you bundle them over.
Yeah.
Get organised. Someone get on the fucking line because Jackson Irvin's there.
Yeah, it did amaze me that
it was just poked in. It was a tap-in. I'm not trying to sound like bad in the way that it was a tap-in, but it's an easy goal to defend, and that was the game. That was the goal that kind of cost us. If we'd been able to stop that goal, it would have been 2-1. Yeah, it would have been a 2-1 Motherwell, potentially. But then there's a lot of ifs and buts. Like the Ricky Lamy goal's really good. The Tony Watt goal is just build-up play and a good shot at the end. But it was a strange game. However, my criticism again, and it's the second season I'll make the same criticism as I did against St Mirren in 2020. It's there's nobody in the Motherwell team that can take a penalty other than the penalty taker. That first penalty goes in, and I'm thinking, all right, like this is going all right, and then Mark O'Hara, there's someone down at Ocean Terminal that's caught the ball from that. That was terrible. And it was just terrible penalty after terrible penalty. Granted, 6'7" keeper and goal, and that may say, but finish a penalty. Like, you know, like the team hasn't changed much from last season. The players know we went out on penalties last season. Work on the fucking penalty.
My question was, why didn't Tony Watt take one? I think he might have been down to take like the fifth one, but why didn't he take one of the first four?
So it's another good question, because it was Devante Cole and then Mark O'Hara, and Mark O'Hara missing his penalty totally fluffed it for us. I thought like Devante Cole and then get Tony Watt to take the second one, and we could have been even on penalties. Obviously, I mean, granted, Mark O'Hara's like a midfielder sort of style, so it's maybe that way, like, let's keep the striker to the end in case it's like 3-4. to us, and then we can put the fifth one in, and that's it sort of done. But I don't know. I really don't know what was going on at that point. I don't know if it was we wanted to have an attacker at the start, like a forward at the start and a forward at the end, so that there was a forward still there to try and kill the shootout off. But I don't understand it. Like that's the credit to Hibs, is it's like no matter who stepped up to take a penalty, and that the penalty was going in.
Unless it was
Given this bit.
Unless it was given this bit. But like every other player that stepped up there was finishing a penalty. Like Martin Boyle finished his. The Deutsch took one, eh?
No.
Boyle,
was-
Hallberg, McGinn, and Nesbitt and Porteous. So that's
Yeah.
Yeah,
So half of that-
Porteous scored the winner. Aye.
So
Yeah.
I know Porteous scored the winner. So that, like, there's a point. Half the people that were taking the penalties for Hibs were fucking defenders.
I know. Aye.
Porteous has never
It's-
taken a
it's-
penalty in his like professional career as well.
even in
like,
training, apparently he said. So like that's
Why was he on fifth then?
I mean,
Begs
It
the question.
was. But when you look at it like that, that it's embarrassing for Motherwell to go out on penalties like that. When you had two attackers in that you could have had in the 5 penalty takers that
Aye.
could have gave a game, and you've got midfielders there who in a game, we know Mark O'Hara can score a goal.
can't
Why
score a
can you know
penalty.
that? But can't score a fucking penalty. We're like the Man City of football in Scotland, not in terms of money, but just in terms of no one in the team can finish a penalty.
Aye,
It's-
they've rotated it all season. They got like Gundogan taking it, Guerrero, Jesus, De Bruyne. They should just stick Ederson on penalties for the fun of it.
I think we should stick Liam Kelly on penalties for the rest of the season at this point. It's just but I mean that's my 2 cents on the game. I'm not going to go any further than that. All credit to Hibs. I cannot fault it. We came back into it, and at the end of the day, it was a proper cup tie.
why?
And looking at it now with who's left in the cup, like Hibs have got a good run. You've only got to get past St Johnstone. Sorry, not St Johnstone. You've only got to get past Dundee United.
Dundee, and then one of the Saints in the final.
And one of the Saints in the final. So, granted, St Johnstone have done you dirty this season
Yeah.
at Hampden, but Hibs do have a good run for the Scottish Cup.
We do. My final thoughts on the game. I agree. I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I was really impressed with Motherwell the last 10 minutes. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's worrying how not just that time this season, but other times where we've dominated games for the most part up to the 60th, 70th, 80th in this case minute, and we just throw it away. We switch off for a second, and the other team finds it so easy to get back into the game. The Celtic game at Easter Road is another example. I don't think Celtic were in the match at all that game, but all it needed was a 10-minute spell to get 2 goals. All Motherwell needed was a 10-minute spell.
It seems Hibs struggle with switching off late in the game. They think job done,
Absolutely.
but instead of sitting back, acting like it's job done, the players just seem to lose focus.
And another thing is
they're thinking about what they're putting on for tea, you know?
Yeah. And it's happened all season. And another thing is Jack Ross didn't really make any subs. He brought Andre right. But where's I don't know, he could have someone like Cadden or McGregor or somebody who's going to see out a game better. I mean, if we've got McGregor in the defence for those 2 goals, they're both goals from. So let me think. First one was a corner. Second one was Donald Cross.
Yeah, Jack Ross didn't bring on anybody until the 102nd minute.
In my opinion, if McGregor's there, he's got a lot better chance of heading it away than any other player in the squad. Porteous is a good header of the ball. I mean, Deutsch can be good defensively as well, but it's a different type of game plan where you need different players for. It's obvious that having played the league, the 3 games, the Livingston game midweek and then the cup game the week before, we were knackered. I mean, you could see it. Boyle, the likes of Boyle and Jackson Irvine and Newell were really struggling about, and I think that contributed it to a lot, or to a big degree. And I think probably, in my opinion, obviously, probably other people can have other ideas, and it may not necessarily be this. But I think what it comes down to is that the reason we struggled in December was that we don't have a big squad. We rely on the same starting 11 more often than not. The only changes we've made recently to the first team squad has been switching around Cadden, and now Cadden's injured, so we've had to play Boyle in the right wing back role, and switching out Macy from Marciano because Macy's our cup goalie. And it's like, yeah, when you have games coming thick and fast like they have the past week, like they did in December, you're going to just struggle. So I think it's going to be a big effort in the summer to strengthen the squad and have, in all honesty, better quality depth players than Dre Wright to come on, because, as much as I want players to do well when they come for Hibs, I've not seen anything from Dre Wright all season, bar a one really good cross at Hamilton away and a goal against Rangers. It doesn't make a season for you as a Hibs player, so it's really worrying. But on the other hand, something we have done the past 3 weeks is really, really put our stamp on games, right? So before we were winning, and we were getting criticised a lot for winning methodically, as you know, got like
kind of thing.
Exactly, like kind of playing really conservative, maybe hitting the other team on the break and then shutting up shop, and we might win, you know. But I think the last few games, what you've seen is, especially the Livingston game in the first half, and also the first kind of 60, 70 minutes of the Motherwell game, is Hibs really bringing the game to the other team. And it's something that we've started to do a lot more the past kind of few weeks. And I think it's come down to the squad have had the whole season to play with each other. And it's also just probably Jack Ross gaining confidence in his players as well, giving them the freedom to go forward when they need to. And it's making, you know, like I say, the challenge is bringing in depth in the summer, but I'm really confident for next season that we can continue. Granted, we don't lose too many of our key players. But and it's also making me kind of confident for the end of the season in terms of our chances for the cup. St Johnstone, I mean, yeah, the whole thing with the cup, and we've been here before. I mean, I got a bit excited, maybe thinking we were the favourites last time, but I mean, at most we're 2 games of football away from a cup, and that's it. I'm not, you know.
At the least, it's 180 minutes from a trophy, and quite a big one as well.
And like, St Johnstone are a good team. Like, I'd argue that they're the favourites because the media and the wider football community in Scotland will expect us to Hibs it, quote unquote, which I don't think, like I've said before, is a term that I don't agree in its use anymore.
The miserable Jambos will be hoping you Hibs it.
No, it's St Johnstone will be the favourites because they've won a cup this season
and they're hot in form.
They've only lost at 1 game out of their last 20. But at the same time, we've got them in the next league game, I think that'll be a dress rehearsal for the final. In all honesty, obviously Dundee United are there, but I think the only team I fear at the last 4 is St Johnstone. I'm quite confident beating St Mirren or Dundee United, but St Johnstone's the one I kind of, especially in a final, would be very tricky. But if we can get a good win over them Easter Road on Saturday, probably lifts us up and says, you know, we can beat these lot. So yeah, that's just it.
Moving on to the St Johnstone game, it was a 1-1 draw with Rangers. Obviously, Carl's not here to talk about it, but it was a relatively quiet game, I guess, from both sides up until late into extra time.
Yeah.
When Tavernier headed home to give Rangers the lead, and you'd think that'd be that.
I mean, it was a very non-Rangers performance, you know. I mean, usually they're so fantastic at staling out these games, and you know, like Rangers very rarely concede late on in a game, so it was completely uncharacteristic for them. Even, I mean, it was uncharacteristic of them not to score and to take it to extra time, but St Johnstone looked like the equal team the whole way through the game. Like, St Johnstone looked like they could. I mean, every pass that Rangers made, St Johnstone made one just as good, if not better. Every tackle, you know. I think there's probably a lot of exhaustion in the Rangers side, and when a team wins a title early, wraps up a title early, the performances tend to drop off. I think that's just because players are partying, but also job done. I mean, Stevie G, his job was probably win the league, and he's done that. So I know he'll claim not to be disappointed. I'm sure he will be disappointed to only have the one trophy this season, especially if this team is so phenomenal, as the media is saying. But other teams have managed to win all 3 trophies in a season on multiple occasions and win the title without losing a game. So, I guess we see a Rangers bounce back from this going into the last few games of the split.
Yeah, because the equalising goal, I've got it down as going down as Zander Clark's goal, but I think he's just...
It came off Kane.
It came off Chris Kane last, but yeah, it was...
Yeah. It was going in, though. It was going in.
Zander Clark coming up for the corner and then heading it.
Yeah.
It was completely unmarked. Like, surely...
I mean,
marking.
You absolutely love a keeper. I mean, he's not like he's wearing blue and looking like a Rangers player. He's wearing neon green. Surely the Rangers players have been trained to look out for boys in green kits. They but all credit to St Johnstone. They played a fantastic game, and if anything, they deserve to win it rather than let it go to penalties. Just for how good a performance they put in, they'd be disappointed not to. And Rangers, have never been the most composed side during penalties, because they only have, considering they win $1 million a season, but I think Tav took his and the rest of them just crumbled.
Yes, Tavernier and Kieran Roof both missed. Barisic and Defoe did score, but St Johnstone converted all of their penalties to see them through. I think going back to what you said, Andy, and what Marcus said, I think it's been a long season for Rangers. I mean, they went deep in Europa League. They got to quarterfinals of the Cup. I think it got to is it the quarterfinals of the League Cup as well? They got to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No. Yeah. They got knocked out by St Mirren in the quarterfinals. Yeah, they did.
So it's been they've got to 3 sets of quarterfinals and won the league. So it's been a long season, but I think it's one where you've come out with a trophy. It's all it's a job to build on from here to find getting a treble, for example.
I honestly think now if Gerrard's staying for another season or two, I feel like it's not so much like let's win the Premier Sports Cup as it's now named. We'll just leave that at that. The Scottish Cup, for him, it's probably win the league and get Rangers as far as you can in the Europa League, Champions League. Obviously, round of 32 this year, but he will want to push them to a quarter, maybe even a semi-final. I do not think like a Scottish team, like either of the Old Firm teams, are good enough to get to a European final. That is no disrespect to either team, but
no. In the last 15, I mean, the last time a Scottish club reached the European final was Rangers in 2008, Celtic 4 years prior. I mean, it's difficult to see with the amount of the way the money shifted towards these 5 leagues that have made every single European final since then, bar one final made by Dnipro. The team in Eastern Ukraine.
The Ukrainian one, and then Ajax made a Europa League final
Ajax made the Europa League final as well. However, Ajax do have the European pedigree, but
they're probably the biggest club outside the top 5.
They are absolutely the biggest club. Them and probably the Portuguese clubs are the only club, because Benfica have made a Europa League final as well. But the
I like how he goes with Benfica and then fails to remember that Celtic were beat by Jose Mourinho's Porto.
I know they were. I was saying since Rangers and Celtic lost their finals. However, speaking of, I chuck a little transfer rumor in there. Apparently, Celtic called Jose on the phone just to wish him well, and which it doesn't fill me with hope. I mean, as much as I think it would be amazing to have Jose Mourinho as a manager, he's a born winner. It means that what have we been doing for the last 3 months? Are we not? I mean, Jose was only sacked 6-7 days ago, so who had we not been lining anybody up as a replacement? However, the Eddie Howe odds have gone up. Odds are better now, so it looks like he might have come to terms with Celtic potentially. I heard he was having issues with backroom staff, and that's why the deal was being held up. But could be Mourinho and Howe are the front runners at the moment.
Yeah, I think from what I've heard is that Eddie Howe wanted to bring some of his backroom staff from Bournemouth along, but Bournemouth are in the playoff hunt for to go back straight up. But they're in the playoffs at the moment, so I think if they don't go up, it'll be a lot easier for him to
poach
the staff than if they're back in the Premiership. Premier League.
I think this is one of the things you now need to watch, though, is obviously Tottenham search for a manager. They wanted Nagelsmann from Leipzig, but he's now going to Bayern Munich, which is just typical.
Ludicrous.
It's typical Bayern Munich tapping up every other Bundesliga club.
Yeah. Euros, didn't
it's
they?
absolutely tapping up 30 million for a manager. Like, I understand, but players have been tapped up for years, right? Like Mbappe at PSG, but I mean, obviously Leicester tapped up Brendan Rodgers, but for a scale of a 30 million buyout fee for a manager is ludicrous. I mean, they're buying the league, and obviously that sees Hansi Flick probably make his move to the German national team after this summer's Euros.
So, I mean, the thing is, you've got, like, every player that has ever went to Bayern Munich has came, like, 9 out of 10 of them have came from another Bundesliga club. So, like, Serge Gnabry came from
He was on
Hoffenheim.
at Hoffenheim, aye. They bought him from Arsenal, he was playing for Hoffenheim, and he was supposed to go join Hoffenheim.
Yeah, Lewandowski comes from Dortmund. Upamecano's coming in from Leipzig.
Do you want to know the last player they signed who wasn't from the German league? It was Corentin Tolisso, who's
from Lyon,
was bought from Lyon. Yeah, he's
would it not be Leroy? Would it not be Leroy Sané from Man City as well?
Oh, of course, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
but still, yeah.
To go back to my point, because I'm totally drifting into German football here. Celtic now need to watch that Tottenham managerial race, because the likelihood is Eddie Howe is probably somewhere in the running for that Tottenham job. Because I can't really think of anyone else they could bring in, like, in terms of vacant managers currently for Tottenham.
Yeah.
I mean, Andre Villas-Boas is one I can think of, but would you take him back?
No, but I think as well there's been announced today that Spurs will announce their new manager before the end of the season. And
I wish Celtic had the ambition, though. Having a manager come in before the end of the season is great, right? The manager can have a look at the players. Even if there's a couple games to play, they're probably not going to care about the results of those games. But you can see, they have a couple games. Then the players can chat to the manager, he can get to know them, and he can know who's part of his plans, who's not, and it helps the summer transition window so much easier. But if we're bringing a manager in a week before our European qualifiers start, then that's ludicrous, right? Because it's just not going to go well. A manager can't revolutionise a squad in a week. So I think we need to watch what other clubs are doing, and we need to beat other clubs because there's a lot of managerless clubs this summer. We need to beat them to the punch.
I think you've got one perk if you sign Jose Mourinho as a manager. You might not get the most attractive football on the pitch. You might have the most arrogant manager off the pitch, but you will win something.
We won't bottle finals.
You will not lose. Like,
I was about to say that Jose Mourinho didn't win a trophy. I
can guarantee you for a fact. Like, I personally think, had Jose Mourinho not refused to train players over the ESL and had been able to manage Tottenham in the Carabao Cup final on Sunday, it would have been a completely different game.
It would have been a 1-0 Spurs shithouse victory instead of Spurs being dominated by City.
The thing is, Jose Mourinho is the only manager to beat Pep Guardiola in a final, and then they sack him a week before the final.
Yeah. It's ludicrous. And also, right, the squad, I don't understand. You're obviously a Spurs fan on the side, Sam. I think Jose got an absolute awful rap by the media at Spurs. His record is not that terrible, right? The mess Poch left him in, half the players wanted to leave. The squad was a shambles. The players were all demoralised. Poch had lost 16 or 17 games that season, like a record losses in a season for Spurs, and or since in the last 6 months he got sacked or something. He had an awful record. Jose came in, he steadied the ship. He had Harry Kane and Son scoring more goals than ever under any manager, and he stopped any players leaving in the summer window except Christian Eriksen. So really, he didn't. He got to a cup final. He didn't get a chance to win it or do anything, but
I think it's because
I don't think he did poor.
I think it's because of they had a really good start to the season and then kind of dropped off a bit, had a few losses here and there to clubs they really should be beating, and also.
But did they back Mourinho in January? No, they got Gareth Bale on a ill-fated, expensive loan.
Yeah, that was in the summer, and I don't think they brought anyone in January, but I can't remember.
Oh, was it in the summer? Oh, well, there you go. He wasn't playing until January, though, Gareth Bale. So
he's also frozen out players that he, been freezing out on Ndombele and then bringing him back and then freezing him out again. Danny Rose hasn't played for the club in over 2 years. It's just been, strange.
I mean, we saw the way Danny Rose spoke to him in that documentary, though. I mean,
it's also been very, very negative in terms of watching it as well. Score a goal and then sit back and then.
But that's how you win trophies. Yeah, like that. If in a cup final, that's absolutely how you want to play.
And
Jose Mourinho plays every game like it's a cup final.
It's not. I disagree. I think it's daft to be like, we want a manager in who's a winner when you were saying the same thing about Lenny. I think I'm not comparing Jose Mourinho to Lennon, but they're two managers who are on the out in terms of their style of football. Mourinho will still win the odd FA Cup with Man United or Europa League, but he's not a top manager anymore. He's maybe. I'm not saying he wouldn't do a good job at Celtic, but I think that I'd rather see a Scottish club, or if I was a Celtic fan, go for a younger that manager for Salzburg, what's his called?
Jesse Marsh.
Jesse Marsh.
Yeah.
Young managers with new ideas.
Jesse Marsh is going to replace Nagelsmann at Leipzig, though. So
no, I thought Marco Rose was jumping from. Is he jumping to Dortmund?
Marco Rose is going to Dortmund, yeah.
Oh, so it's Jesse Marsh jumping to Leipzig, okay.
Oh, this is going to be fun, isn't it? Dortmund, Marco Reus and Marco Rose. You're not going to know what one.
I know.
Great.
You know what I mean, though? I think just for the sake of progress, for the sake of not sitting back on one of the leads and all that in league games, which if Celtic do in league games, you'll drop points against teams Hibs have found it out. Teams like Motherwell and that will push you to the edge for a point if they sniff a chance. I don't see that style of football belonging in football, or like Jose style. Like I said, these are managers that are getting a bit dated. And he got Son and Kane working really well. Yeah, but were Spurs up the table? No, they were just kind of outside the top 4 or top 6. So that's my 2 pence on it, I guess. But
I just want to throw a spanner in the works here, right? In terms of Spurs, right?
Spurs don't have a top 4 squad though, so it's not surprised they weren't in the top 4.
Right, it's not surprising. With the exception of Harry Kane and Son Heung-min, the team is pretty, no offense, Sam, but it's pretty dire.
Yeah,
Leicester and West Ham have just as good squads.
Yeah,
and they are actually playing to the ability of their squads.
Yeah, I'd say you've got Son and Kane, maybe Lloris. He's got the odd mistake in him as well, but those are the.
Oh, he was fantastic against City though. Lloris kept it at 1-0. It would have been 4-0 if he hadn't.
Yeah, those are the 3 world-class players that Spurs have, and the rest of them are just, they're Premier League players. They're good players, but they're not top 4 Champions League knockout stage players.
But as a Celtic fan, I obviously want another project manager, and no, I don't think Mourinho is a project manager. But if the board want to go for a steady the ship manager, why not?
I think
steady the ship catching up with Rangers, because Rangers are miles ahead now. Is a steady the ship manager like Jose?
So a steady the ship manager will win us 1 or 2 trophies a season, maybe not the league, right? But a project manager is not going to win us the league in his first season, and could potentially. So Jose Mourinho could probably get us a deep run in Europe. hopefully, right?
Then,
But
yeah,
but say we get Eddie Howe. I don't think he'll keep us competitive. He might improve every player in our squad, but he'll turf a bunch out, bring a bunch in, and we'll have to wait 3 years to see the effect, right? Well, it'll be like Gerrard at Rangers. It's taken them three seasons to see Gerrard get
Wouldn't
the
you
players
rather
playing
that,
how he
though?
wants.
Wouldn't you rather that though? Because if you get a steady, like I say, you'll get your short-term success.
But what if
Mourinho,
Rangers climb further ahead in that time?
But then,
you know? And
yeah,
then
but
we're always 3 seasons behind chasing.
if you get in Mourinho and it's a steady the ship kind of situation, aren't you back to square one once he leaves? And there's a situation like he has had at other clubs.
Lennon was supposed to be a steady the ship 1 year rolling contract, so they were supposed to, after that season he came in to replace Rodgers, right? They were supposed to see how the players liked him, see how he's performing, look at the results, look at the stats. Was he playing negative football? And they were supposed to not offer him a new contract if he was subpar. And they were also supposed to ask the fans. They didn't. They just gave him an extra year on his contract. In fact, they gave him an extra 2 years. Nobody wanted that. A lot of the players didn't want Lennon to have the 2 years. Like a lot of the foreign players, obviously your Callum McGregors, your James Forrest, your Ryan Christie's were loving it. But I mean, it was a lot of the players didn't want to see him get an extra year in his contract, and I don't think that Celtic will make that mistake again. I think they will go for a project manager. I just think it's too late. They should have, if they wanted a project manager, they should have had one lined up when they sacked Lennon
already. Yeah.
If you're going for a steady the ship manager, you've sacked a manager because your results are poor, and you see who's available, right? If you're going for a project manager, you wait till have that manager ready to sign the paper, then you sack your manager. You don't go for an interim manager for about 3 months now. Since February.
Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, John Kennedy will just get given the job, won't he? And for being
I guess that's the worry.
Exactly, that's the worry. And then that's somehow worse. Like that's instead of going back to square one, that's like square -2.
Yeah. Oh well.
Going back to the Scottish Cup. There's 2 games we didn't cover. 3-0 win for Dundee United over Aberdeen. Impressive performance, especially from Mark McNulty, who got 2 goals. And they do face Hibs in the semi-final. Will Mark McNulty haunt his former club?
No.
Okay, that was
decisive.
That was.
Yeah. Aberdeen were very poor, and that's all I can really say about it. Dundee United looked impressive. They actually came out and had a go at it, but Aberdeen were really poor. Like they had nothing defensively. Like McInnes has built his teams on being really defensively solid and then kind of nicking a goal in an attack, but it was like the opposite this time. It was like Aberdeen were playing everything through the midfield, but not like every time United were on the counter attack, like the defense just wasn't there. Like it's I don't know, the fullbacks were so high, like they had no defensive shape. It was all just if you know what I mean. It was really risky play, I guess.
I think as well. Going back to what we said about project managers, Stephen Glass is a project manager, and this kind of the rest of the season for him and Aberdeen is kind of a bit of a free pass.
I mean, fans won't be worried about the poor results from Stephen Glass because they know that this season's a write-off, right?
No, yeah.
They're probably 4th. But thing is, I would much rather be in Aberdeen's position than Celtic's right now. And
I know actually got a manager in.
Aberdeen, I know that was a very poor result against Dundee. But Dundee, I'm happy to see Dundee scoring goals. Dundee United. But it's a weird one because I think Stephen Glass could do okay. He's definitely taken away that negative style of football that McInnes had, but also he's not at a window to bring in players that he thinks will work to his system or anything. So time will tell with him. I don't think.
Doubt.
I think Aberdeen will persist with him because he's quite a big acquisition. So I don't see him getting sacked early in the season if results are poor. I think Aberdeen will persist.
Absolutely, no, I'm not disputing that it's going to be a process with him. I was just more focused on for now. It doesn't look good at all.
Look good, but I think give him a chance at a window or 2. Give him a chance over pre-season to get his style of play nailed down into the players, and I think they'll be good. They'll be good to go for next season.
I think I think it was a result that we didn't expect to see coming,
Probably not. Yeah,
but
you're right.
it's a result that for Aberdeen probably was coming.
Yeah.
The situation is like, as you have said, Derek McInnes had very boring football. They brought in Glass, but Glass has came in at a time of the season where there's not really enough time to put your own tactics into play before the season wraps up. The grace that Aberdeen have is that obviously he was the head coach of the Atlanta United reserves.
Yes.
I don't know if it was the
He
reserve.
also had a stint as the manager of the head team when one of the, I want to say
It was
Frank de
before-
Boer or Ron
Yeah,
de
it
Boer.
was when
Frank de Boer.
Frank de Boer was sacked, and then
Stephen
Stephen
Glass
Glass
came
throughout the
in.
rest of the season as interim. And then
He had
now
4
they've got-
wins from his last 8 games. 4 wins from his 8 games in charge of the senior team, which isn't a terrible record. 50% win rate in the MLS
So
when you're drafted in isn't a terrible rate, and that's the only thing we can really judge him off.
I mean, looking on it, and maybe I don't think Aberdeen have the funds for it, but you could maybe then say, well, he's got contacts at Atlanta United, so
Yeah.
Well, the
They
club,
have
the
been
club as
like,
well are,
can
Ronald
you-
Tra-
are linked
Ronald
with
Trent
Atlanta
Can you
United, aren't they? So
Well, I know they brought in. Did they not bring in someone early on this season from Atlanta, like on a loan?
No, one of the Aberdeen players went to Atlanta on a loan, I think.
I'm sure they brought someone in. I can't remember, but again, they've got this loan system. But if they had enough fight in them, they could easily go in and take a player from them that will make a difference in the Aberdeen squad.
I mean, I think Atlanta, have quite a beefy roster actually. So there's plenty of players that might not be getting the game time they like in the MLS that they could take a punt on. I mean,
The promise of the promise as well. If you do well in Scotland, then you got England. The market. in
yeah,
England
the
and
English
as
media
well.
will be
It's
watching.
very appealing, probably to a lot of American players over there. So
I mean, Aberdeen players have actually made a lot of moves down south recently.
McKenna.
so it was.
Mm.
So the player you're thinking of is
Denny.
Ronald Hernandez, who went on loan from Aberdeen to Atlanta United.
That's what I thought. See,
He came originally from Atlanta, I'm pretty sure, to Aberdeen.
did he
according
move
to this, he came from Norway
Oh, did he?
originally.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's my mistake.
I think Atlanta United have one of the lowest average ages in the MLS, which means there's a lot of young players kicking about in their squad that would be more than excited to get a move elsewhere.
They wanted to dispel the myth that it was a retirement league. I think they wanted to just kind of.
They've got,
I mean,
they've got a lot of young
won-
South Americans there. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, they're the only team in America I think is over its homegrown player quota. So, which means they could afford to loan out some American talent. And Americans would obviously never really get the chance to play abroad. So I'm sure that could also be a factor for Aberdeen.
I'm pretty sure that the entire team, except for Inigo Martinez, who's Venezuelan, I think.
Yeah.
Or
they've got a couple of Argentines as well.
But I think that's it. I'm just going to check Inigo Martinez.
Yeah, I know they've got Brad Guzan in goal. I know that for sure.
St Mirren knocked out Cali Thistle, right? That's the game.
Martinez not Spanish. He was at Sociedad.
Inigo Martinez is the centre back. It's Josep Martinez.
Yeah, Josep Martinez is Venezuelan. He used to play at Torino. He hit he's been quite good.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Atlanta United. There we go. Let's pick up their last.
It's been a real international podcast. This.
Yeah, so we're coming in America. We're coming Germany. Yeah, so in the last game, which was in the CONCACAF Champions League, they had Americans. So they had Guzan, Hindman, who was at Hibs for a while.
Why is it? Oh, never mind.
There are a few players like they've got Americans. They've got there's a lot of South Americans. So Ezequiel Barco, Jürgen Damm, who's a Mexican. Marcelino Moreno, who is Argentine as well. So there's a lot of South American talent that could be poached by Aberdeen. But in the last quarter-final, it was a 3-3 draw between Killy and St Mirren.
All right. Yeah, it was the 2 goals in extra time were both penalties actually. So practice for the penalty shootout, and it was possibly the highest quality game of the. Actually, it was the one I watched, but it was.
I would. You could say that, but the first goal for St Mirren, scored by Ilkay Durmus, was just parried into Doyle's own net.
Yeah.
By himself. So,
I mean, it was a real Scottish football game. I mean, 33 fouls committed in this game, right?
Yeah.
It was. I think I read something that it was a quarter-final record for the Scottish Cup. 33 fouls.
Really?
But yeah, but no red cards. So the tackle quality must have been quite high. Just the 6 yellows though. No offsides. But the game, there was. I mean, both teams went out to kill. They were just. It was real end-to-end stuff. They were just at each other's boxes the whole time. And it was just an entertaining game to watch.
I think it's just the promise of...
It showcased Scottish football. But yeah, I think both teams were gunning for a good cup run.
Yeah, so the promise of being in the semi-finals without our Rangers there probably did it, is why it was probably so end-to-end. And I think out of all the semi-finals, those were the two tightest teams in terms of quality. Because the favourites would have been, for the other games, Hibs, Aberdeen and Rangers respectively. So
yeah.
Either this was so tight, like you couldn't have really called it, I guess. And then obviously plus the fact Rangers are out, like I said, it made it a really exciting game.
Yes. It was Durmus who opened the score for St Mirren, then Rossi and Kilty with 2 goals just before half time to put Killy in front at the break. Shaughnessy equalised the scores 5 minutes before the 90-minute mark, and then 2 penalties in extra time. The first one given away by Carl McAllister, and then the second one given away by the Killy keeper, who again had a poor game, letting in that first goal and then giving away the penalty for the equaliser in the 119th minute for St Mirren from the spot. And then, even though McAllister did give away that penalty that put Killy 3-2 up, he did score the winning penalty for St Mirren, which I think is a nice little story there. Roy McKenzie's penalty was the only one that was missed. It's actually quite a high quality penalty shootout.
It was unlike the Rangers shootout and the Hibs shootouts. It was a better standard. I do love a penalty shootout when you get through the ranks. Everyone gets 5 penalties, but sometimes you get you've scored all 5 and you get the defenders and the keepers taking it. I think the best penalty shootout, or I guess the worst penalty shootout I've ever watched, was Italy Germany in the 2016 Euros.
2016, yeah.
The Simone Zaza's tiki-taka nonsense.
I think Neuer took like the second penalty for Germany, I think, in that one as well.
Yes, he did, and he missed it by a mile.
Which is crazy. But that sets up the 2 semi-finals. So it'll be Hibs versus Dundee United and St Mirren versus St Johnstone in the first Scottish Cup set of semis without the Old Firm since 2005-06. And it also marks the first time in Scottish football history that no Old Firm team has made the semi-finals of either the Scottish Cup or the League Cup in the same season.
If Celtic wanted a cup final this season, they should have called themselves Saint Celtic, because I mean, St Johnstone could make both finals, or St Mirren and St Johnstone
could win the double this season, which is an incredible achievement.
I mean, the second most successful team of the decade.
Yeah, of course. Did have a look at the last time these teams made the final. So obviously Hibs, the most recent team of these 4 to win the Scottish Cup, beating Rangers in the final of 2016. Dundee United won it in 2010, beating Ross County in the final, and St Johnstone won it in 2014, and St Mirren won it in 1987. That's their most recent win. They both won it over Dundee United, and they have a chance to play them again in the final, which I think is quite poetic. If either of them get through, and obviously if Dundee United beat Hibs, either of them could have the repeat of their most recent success in the Cup.
I mean, I think all teams, this is the first time in a while in Scottish Cup, obviously because the Old Firm went out, that every team in it feels like they can win it. Yeah. I mean, I know Hibs fans really feel like they should be winning this. Like, it's a
No, well-
disappointment not to win. But I think every club is feeling like they can win. But for Hibs, it's almost a target rather than a lucky surprise.
I mean, our target under Ron Gordon is to win the Scottish Cup. Obviously, he's made it really clear. So,
Otherwise, you'll be a very old man before they next win it, Marcus.
unfortunately,
It's also very similar. Like I know there was no Old Firm teams in the League Cup semis either, but if you swap out Dundee United for Livingston, that's the League Cup semis right there. That's very similar. I think it's going to be commended to both St Mirren and St Johnstone and Hibs as well to make two sets of semi-finals.
St Johnstone were very early to sack their manager, but I think the job that's been done now is fantastic. Like, I mean, they're St Johnstone have not. I mean, they've beat Hibs once this season and maybe twice. They've beat Rangers. Yeah, I thought so. Beat Rangers. Drawn with Celtic twice actually. But Callum David. Who's
Callum Davidson?
It is Callum Davidson.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic.
He's going to be in the shout for manager of the season. I mean, obviously, I think Gerrard will get it, but Callum Davidson's definitely with the
He does. Yeah.
If they win the double, then absolutely, you know.
Yeah, and it'll be Hibs' third semi-final this season. Obviously, the last two trips to Hampden didn't end quite well, so hopefully this time it's third time lucky. But going on, after our last pod, the morning after the Super League collapsed, there was talk of a British Super League, an 18-team league in England where they'd invite Celtic and Rangers to join, which looks to be supported by the Premier League and most of the media over the European Super League, but it comes into the same problems. And
well, okay, if that were to go ahead, which I don't think it'll ever do, and despite its wide support down in England and its minimal support in Scotland, so the new Champions League format will give legacy clubs who have historically been fantastic in Europe, the chance to qualify each season based on, you know, their league positions and their coefficients and their fan performance and stuff. If Celtic and Rangers were dumped into the Premier League, could we steal their free spot? So obviously I don't expect Celtic and Rangers to get a European place if they went into England, but, you know, could we get the legacy spot over, say, Arsenal or Spurs?
I'd say Rangers, the performances in Europe past couple of seasons, they probably could, but
they have definitely outperformed Arsenal and Spurs over the past 2 seasons. Maybe not Spurs, but Arsenal.
I think Arsenal made a final a couple of seasons ago, but still Rangers have been consistent and might. I think Arsenal again in the semis this season as well, I think.
Of course, Spurs and Arsenal got to a Champions League and Europa League respectively in the same season.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting. I mean, they always talk every 5 years or 10 years. They go on about it. They stopped for a while when Rangers ceased to exist briefly, but it's great. I can put in all the Rangers or deed jokes in because Kyle's not here. But 55, aka 1. But no, I don't think it'll happen. It makes no sense. Financially, it would be fantastic for Celtic and Rangers, but the board still wouldn't do it because success would dwindle, you know?
Yeah.
Why would you want to play fucking in Southampton every week? Or
why would you play in a league where you probably finished, you know, lower mid-table?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you rather win the league by miles and
win the Premier Sports Trophy?
But you'd get a much better chance of getting in Europe. However, you'd be a lower seed, so you'd have a tougher time in Europe, but there's an easier chance to get to Europe. And I think because Celtic and Rangers, I think if Hibs had a squad as good as Celtic and Rangers do at the moment, or as good as Rangers, say Hibs were as good as Rangers this season, I wouldn't actually see them turning it down because then they know they could compete in England and they'd get far more money and they would then surpass both Old Firm clubs with the money. So obviously I can't speak for Hibs because I'm not Highby, but Aberdeen would because they're spineless. So, but obviously they wouldn't get invited because they're not apparently attractive enough. I think there's plenty more. I mean, Hibs are far more attractive than Bournemouth, and Bournemouth have been in the Premier League. They're more attractive than a lot of clubs. Norwich, that are in these crappy little fallen to Burnley, these crappy little fallen down stadiums. You know, Edinburgh is the capital city of a country.
Yeah,
It's far more, Hibs are a far more attractive prospect. Like,
we're a bigger club. I mean, people go on
would you
about
want to
Celtic
live
and
on a farm in
Rangers
Norwich, or would you want to live in the most beautiful city in the UK
in Europe.
as a player? Like,
Aye.
if Hibs had the money from a Prem side, they'd possibly be one of the biggest forces in British football.
Europe, I think. as
Same
well.
same with Celtic and Rangers, but
But see,
it's
the whole
not gonna
discussion about Celtic and Rangers being bigger than half the clubs in the Prem,
yeah.
like you can make a case for Hibs and Hearts, like and Aberdeen as well. Even your Dundee United. I mean, if you go Bournemouth, the likes of Bournemouth, Brighton, even Brighton, as much as Brighton have established themselves, like Hibs and Hearts and Aberdeen and Dundee United are all bigger than Brighton. I'm sorry, they've never won a major trophy in their entire existence.
Brighton
and
hadn't
they've
even
never...
been in the top flight ever until they got promoted. Well,
exactly.
Premier League. They've been in the top flight, but not the Premier League.
Like
I think
Hibs,
as well as
even disregarding the term, like Hibs have a history of competing in Europe, and we were the first club from the UK to play in European in the European Cup, and we were invited because we were a team that they thought would bring attention because we were one of the leading clubs in Europe at that point. So, no, it's
and as well as I think isn't it Dundee United who are the only team that Barcelona have faced in Europe that they haven't beaten.
Yeah,
Dundee United have 100% record.
Yeah,
and the other Dundee club have a fantastic record against Madrid.
Yeah, Dunfermline have a good record in Europe. I mean,
Scottish clubs. I mean, between the 60s and the 70s, maybe earlier even, Scotland was the centre of football. I mean, we were expected to win a couple World Cups. Results didn't go our way, but I mean, Hampden was the first place to host a European final. I mean, like Scotland football is at the heart of Scotland, and Scotland's
football's a Scottish invention.
Yeah,
well.
but no, is it? No, I feel like it's not. But
the FA was set up by obviously the English, but the rules of the game were modified when Scots went down in England to play.
Okay.
And the Scots were paid to play, which was frowned upon.
Scots
frowned
were
upon at the time.
First ones to kind of get under the table payments in terms of wages and.
But in terms of like passing and movement,
if you've watched that
so
documentary / drama,
the reason
on
Neymar cost 200, the reason Neymar cost 220 million is because of a Scottish guy.
Yeah.
Aye. But it's the English Game, you've seen that, which is funnily named that. But yeah, so like the Scottish had to revolutionise the sport because it wasn't passing and movement based. It was a lot like rugby, where you hog the ball and then eventually get tackled off it and lose possession. Whereas the Scots invented the idea of passing and movement, which essentially made the game what it is today. So, and obviously the rules and everything were changed. So it's a Scottish invention, and that's it.
Scottish football should stay in Scotland, though. I mean, I know the Welsh have made moves, obviously with Wrexham, with Swansea and with Cardiff, but the Welsh FA is far more integrated with the English FA, and I think Scottish football would lose its credibility. I hope that Scotland gets some TV company feels enough to invest into Scotland to give us a bumper TV deal, and that the Scottish money can flow through the game. All clubs in Scotland can improve and get better players. Maybe global warming will give us better weather. I think we're a sleeping giant in world football. Been asleep for about 40 years now, but I feel like eventually it's going to kick off and we're going to become a hotspot in football again. I don't think it'll be longer than 10 years before Celtic or Rangers make a European final, because I think a lot of the other clubs in Europe are actually getting worse. Like a lot of the big clubs, they're getting complacent. Shock upsets are happening more often in Europe nowadays.
Hopefully with more fan ownership as well.
Exactly.
The game gets brought out of the hands of the top 5 leagues, and
as well as going back to the fact that back to the European Super League is that kind of threatened the integrity of Spanish league, the Italian league, the English league. Then if Celtic and Rangers join this British Super League, that will invalidate the integrity of the Scottish league, and I don't think that France and England
would Hibs get a Champions League place then, or would our coefficient because Celtic and Rangers get removed, our coefficient would completely decline. Yeah, right.
No, I was going to say is that English teams don't recognise that what they wanted for the European Super League would have exactly the same effect in this British Super League.
Because the Celtic Rangers coefficient would go to England, and England would probably get another Champions League spot.
Exactly, yeah. Then
like
Scottish football will get like Europa League and Conference League spots.
But speaking of European positions and leagues, third and fourth in Scotland are a conference spot now rather than a Europa League. It's the Scottish Cup winner that gets the only Europa League spot. So I think we have. I think Hibs go into a playoff. So if they win their first round of European playoffs, they stay in Europa League. If they lose, they drop into the conference playoff, straight into a conference group.
Yeah,
I think
in terms of the cup, yeah.
Aberdeen goes straight into the first round of conference qualifying, but the cup gets a Scottish Cup now gets a straight European group in Europa League. So you get a group place in Europa League. So if Hibs win the cup, they go through far less games to get. Hibs need to win this cup if they want to get a better run in Europe, because they'll be a higher seed in their Europa League group, and they won't have to go through qualifiers. So I think they should definitely put all their eggs in the cup basket, because
absolutely,
yeah.
Even if Aberdeen jump above you, winning the cup would be better for you.
Yeah,
because the way now,
getting
now
straight
third
into the Europa League groups, I think would be a massive achievement for any of the four clubs.
Because you could potentially get Europe where Celtic and Rangers couldn't, because Celtic and Rangers could bollock their qualifiers, right?
Yeah, and Champions League qualifiers, yeah.
And Hibs could get, if Hibs won the cup, they get a straight Europa League group, which means Hibs could be flying the flag for Scotland and Europe. So finishing third and fourth now doesn't actually matter. It's winning the cup is far better.
Yeah.
But then we could also, in theory, say Hamilton could win the Scottish Cup, get relegated. We could have a Scottish Championship side representing us in Europe.
Oh dear. And True. On that sad note, so this week there is no quiz this week, and there's also no predictions because Kyle isn't here. But we'll run over the predictions again next week. But on the sad note that Hamilton could get into Europe, we'll leave you there.
Not this season.
Not this season.
Not this season.
In the future,
hopefully. But it could be sooner. We don't. We're all right with something, man. Anyway. Wrap it up for this week. So thank you guys for joining me today, and we'll see you again next week.
Cheers.
Bye.
The False 90s podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, and our website at false90s.wordpress.com. For updates, follow False 90s on both Twitter and Instagram. And a big thank you to Fransisco Aluear and his track Space Game, which is our theme tune. Hibs the quarterfinal, then Hibs it all in the shootout to send their way to Fuck. Start that again. Hibs the quarterfinal, then Hibs it all in the shootout to send them to Hampden. Ibrox is for.
Should we do that again? Because I was speaking over you for the intro.
We'll try that again.
Yeah. I was going to say, slow down.
Well, now we have to do it again because Marcus said, should we do it again?
Yeah.